spiritual growth, self-discovery, going deeper into our own growth and our own evolution, and trying to understand who we are beneath this suit can be a pretty difficult process, to say the least. And I'm sure you are well aware of that, because I'm sure you've had your highs, you've had your lows, and you've had about everything in between. And I'm not saying that everyone goes through this process, but it seems like most of us do, where there's at least one period where everything just falls apart. So this period of existential bankruptcy is what we commonly understand as a dark night of the soul. And it's more than just depression, it's more than just, not feeling great or going through a rough spot in your life. But it serves a very important function, and we wouldn't grow to the extent or evolve to the extent that we do if we don't go through this period. Before you know it, suddenly life just sucks because it feels like everything is falling apart around you. And often this gets worse before it gets better, because we go into these periods where we feel completely disoriented and we don't know who we are, we don't know what we're doing, we don't connect or resonate with the same things that we used to. And even though we reach out for help or we try and stay connected, part of the dark night of the soul is to push you into this, realm where you don't really have any support. You don't really have anyone that can help you through this process, because for the most part, it's a very individual journey. It represents a period of spiritual maturing and letting go of old systems and programs and paradigms that no longer serve us as we step further into our evolution of consciousness, further into our spiritual growth, and as we start connecting more deeply with soul, this is sort of like the process of shedding everything that no longer serves you anymore. Think of it that way. The power just went out. Most of your life you have been a caterpillar. You have been in these routines and this comfort, and your paradigms are quite stable, your identity is stable, and you think you have some sort of conception of yourself or the world, which is, even though you might feel like you do, it's a beautiful illusion. It's not the way that the world actually is. As you go through this metamorphosis, you sort of need to shed your skin and discard your former identity, the way that you thought and believed and felt. So suddenly you start experiencing all these different things, and it can be a very disorienting time of your life, because as you're starting to step deeper into your own spiritual growth, you're starting to experience new things, you're starting to have different emotions and different feelings. Your sense of belonging starts to strip away, your sense of identity starts to strip away, and before you know it, you feel naked, you feel exposed, and you have nowhere to retreat to, because suddenly the things that once provided this sense of comfort or security or closure no longer make you feel the same way. Spiritually, it feels like you've been evicted from your home and you don't have a new place to stay, because you are in this period of transition. The way that I see it is that the dark night of the soul is a period of finding ourselves, right? Because if we are never evicted from our house, then we never really have this incentive to search for a new one. So spiritually speaking, it sort of works the same way. The dark night of the soul is sort of booting you out of your house and saying, right, it's time for a change. These systems are not serving you anymore. If you really want to take the next steps towards your own spiritual growth and your evolution as a consciousness, then you need to be evicted from this house and start finding a house that now suits your future needs. Because let's face it, it's comfortable to stay in that same environment, and we can do that for a very long time. In fact, we can do that for our entire lives if we never decide to grow, if we never decide to evolve, if we just stay as the same person we have always been, which may be okay, don't get me wrong, but it's far from ideal. So I encourage you to avoid seeing the dark night of the soul as something that's wrong, because this is actually a positive thing for your development. And don't worry, we all go through a dark night of the soul as long as we are committed to our own spiritual growth. And you should actually celebrate it. You should say, okay, I'm glad that I'm going through this because it means I'm doing something right. So I went through a dark night of the soul when I was living in the US in 2022. So even though at that point I thought I came a long way with my own spiritual growth and I thought I've already been through the awakening and stuff, It turns out that the awakening never really ends. So I got into this period where I just didn't really see the joy in life anymore. I couldn't find hope, I couldn't find excitement or enthusiasm. It felt like my life was at a dead end and I didn't know the path forward. Even though I knew that I wanted to go to Ecuador to study with shamanic traditions and, do something a little bit different because that life path wasn't really bringing me a whole lot of joy. I couldn't see joy in that either. And I believe this period of my life happened because I wasn't in alignment with my soul. My soul wanted something very different. It wanted to go down this route. I was going down this route. And suddenly all the lights turned off. My own perception of this is that this is Great Spirit or God or however you want to define it, speaking to me and saying, Daniel, you are going down the wrong path. You need to pivot trajectory because this is not in your highest interest. And as I guess my ego or my mind was battling it out and saying, no, this is the most logical way to go. So I kept walking down this path. This sense of joy kept depleting. And the further I walked down this path, the more I started to just lack meaning in my life, and I just didn't really see hope in anything. But I knew that, there was something that I had to learn through this process as well, which is why I was going through it. The way that I see a dark night of the soul is imagine that you, or your body, your mind, your emotions, is like a sandcastle. The dark night of the soul knocks down that sandcastle where you have to rebuild everything from scratch again. But think about it this way. You can't rebuild that sandcastle while it's still standing. So this is sort of how the dark night of the soul works. You need to demolish this previous sandcastle in order to build a new one because you can't build a new one on top of a crappy foundation. If you try, it's not really going to work and these programs are just going to conflict. So what the dark night of the soul does is it knocks down the sandcastle, it pretty much tears apart your identity and your desires and your grounding in life. It uproots everything. So that way you have the opportunity to rebuild in a better way. If you are going through a dark night of the soul right now and you're going through this existential period where you don't really know what's happening, you don't know who you are, but you know that nothing is stable in your life, then there is one thing that you need to do. You need to start rebuilding better. Because while this sandcastle was standing, you couldn't really view it. It was just one collective. It's like, okay, this is who I am, full stop. You didn't really see the little pieces. You didn't see the construction of it. You didn't see the flaws in it. But now you can. You have more of an objective view into your personality, your belief systems, your identity, the things that you like, your values. So my advice is to really go inwards during this period of time. Even if it hurts, even if it's very uncomfortable, it's your duty to go inwards and really grab the magnifying glass and have a look at who you are. Because what the dark night of the soul has done is it's sort of helped you by pulling apart everything so you can actually get an insider look at all the different pieces and patterns and functions of you. And now you have the beautiful opportunity to start taking out the pieces that don't serve you by processing your trauma and looking into these past patterns or these past programs or belief systems. And you begin building yourself back in a better way using these new blocks or these new puzzle pieces that are actually better for your own growth moving forward, that are better for your own spiritual development. So many people don't want to face these painful emotions or these painful thoughts or dig into their suffering or their trauma from the childhood or whatever's coming up during this period because it's sort of like shoveling everything up so you can see it. It's going to be grimy, it's going to be dirty, there's going to be a lot of muck there that's been hidden beneath the surface of awareness for a long time, but now it's all starting to come up and you have no choice but to look at it. And at least in my observations, what I've seen is that when people start walking a new path that is more in alignment with their soul and with this higher paradigm of self rather than this lower paradigm, this is when they start to get out of the dark night of the soul. And you will continue walking through the fog for a little while until it eventually clears. Because once you've learned everything that you need to learn from this situation and through the dark night of the soul, then eventually it will come to an end. You will start feeling even better than you were before. So this is the good thing about the dark night of the soul, is that after you get out of it, your paradigms are a little more evolved, they're a little bit better, you have better interests that are actually in your highest interest. Think of it like a spiritual system update, that you need to go through this period of searching and self-discovery until you get to the next level of your evolution. Then you can cruise here for many years and for quite a while, but eventually if you want to go up to the next level, you'll need to go back down first, because you'll need to do the shadow work, you'll need to introspect even more, you'll need to understand yourself to a deeper extent, and then when you finally do, it will allow you to actually raise to this next level of your being, where you can experience more gratitude and more compassion and more love and more joy in your life. So I urge you to see this period of your life not as if something is wrong with you, but rather as if you are being given a spiritual exam. And the exam sucks, it's hard, but it's also necessary to, increase yourself and improve yourself and let go of a bunch of the crap that no longer serves you, so you can leave it behind. You can bring in more systems and programs that are for the next level of your development. And then that is when you will pass the exam and you will be able to move on with more clarity, with more joy. So all I can say is enjoy this journey of discovering yourself. I know that I might sound crazy right now telling you to enjoy it, but I do assure you that this isn't a bad thing. And it does signify that you are stepping up along your spiritual journey. You are stepping deeper into your soul or into spirit. And sometimes you need to knock down the foundation so that way you can build it up again in a better way. So realize that everything is okay. This period will end as long as you keep working deeper into soul. Oh, it's getting hot. Like always, feel free to leave a comment if you are going through this period of your life. Maybe let me know what's helping you. Share your experiences with other people, so other people who are going through this know that they're not alone, and it's okay to be going through this period of existential dread or existential crisis. And it is really starting to rain now, which is odd because it's super sunny outside. So anyway, I'm going to enjoy the rain. Ciao.